Terrence Turner. This is MGE Table Talk. It's been a minute since we were here. I'm trying to do more of these, but be busy behind the scenes. But today I'm extremely excited because I get a chance to talk politics, society. I get a chance to talk everything today. I have someone with a very detailed history in politics, in community activism, all of that. My guest today is Mr. Daniel Banguel. I said it correctly, right?
Yes.
Look. I've asked him like 3 times because I don't like, I don't like messing people's name up. So I've asked him the correct pronunciation of his name a couple of times even before we started rolling because I just like to be detailed. So, Mr. Daniel Banguel, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Very, very good to meet you in person, sir.
Well, look, I'm pleased to be here. I'm glad to meet you too.
Okay. So, tell me, I've been kind of like, I was looking at your website and everything. Give me the lowdown as far as like how long you've been involved in political strategy, because I see that you're listed as a political strategist. So, how long have you been doing that?
Well, I started off. It's probably been about 5 years. I actually started off in politics in East Baton Rouge Parish as a candidate.
Okay. For what office?
I first ran for school board back in 2014. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I was kind of behind the scenes stuff, but I really just did a lot of more community advocacy. And then I got into politics probably about 2014, really heavy then.
Okay. So what drew you to we're gonna get back to the politics in a second, but you mentioned community activism. So what drew you to that first?
Well, I grew up in East Baton Rouge Parish, and I was one of those kids that got expelled from high school. Got in
expelled
trouble.
for, man?
I got fighting.
Who you fighting?
Man, a couple people.
Dang, man.
I was a real bully, man. I had a fight. Probably every year. I got expelled in 8th grade. I got expelled in 12th grade. And what happened was, what changed my life around was that once you get expelled in high school, you go to Valley Park. I
know.
I got put out of Valley Park too, though.
How you get put out of Valley Park?
Fighting. I'm telling you.
Did you end up like second chance or something?
You know what's funny? I actually called that school, but they wasn't accredited. And so I would have essentially had a certificate, but it wouldn't have been a high school diploma. So I'm in 12th grade, I'm expelled, and my mom was like, Daniel, look, I've gotten as far as I could get with you. You 18. A couple of friends that I went to school with, rode on the bus, like Dominique Washington, they in jail for, first-degree murder and all this stuff. And there's people in my that I went to school with, different type of lifestyle. So my church member took me to Northwest State. Now, he took me because his son was going to school. Now, this was the first time I had a culture shock of how college is. Mm-hmm. People get they think just because you live in Baton Rouge, Southern is there, LSU's there, you've been on campus. I've never been on any of those campuses.
Right.
And so I passed by the hump to get, my mom used to wash clothes on 72nd Street right there in Scholarville on Sundays. I passed right by Southern. I ain't never asked her to turn on that bluff. I ain't never went on it. Never knew I could go to college. So my church member asked me to ride with him while he dropped his son off. And I got to Northwestern State, man, and I started asking questions. I'm looking at students looking like me, like they free.
Right.
Now, the funny thing about this is that what made me excited about college was the fact that I could eat all I could eat at the buffet, at the cafeteria.
Man, come on, man.
I'm
Hold up. You ended up in higher learning because of the buffet, man?
Man.
First of all, hold up. What were they serving?
So back in the day, sometimes every Sunday, my mom would take us to Ryan's, the restaurant.
Oh man!
So when I walked in the buffet, I thought it was like Ryan's because you had a line here for high food, you had a big old thing for desserts, salads, you had another line for pizza, hamburgers, and it's just a lot of foods. And I say, well, man. So the first question I asked was, how many times can you come in a day? They will, sir, you eat 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I said, man. Now, that was crazy because that's the reason why I asked about the school. I ain't asked nothing else about the school. So once that happened, then I started being inquisitive. I started asking, how to get in school. They was telling me about ACT. I was like, well, how do you take that? You know, I guess a lot of these things that happen in high school, since I got suspended all the time, if they did talk about ACT in high school, I don't know nothing about it because I probably was never there.
They was covering that when you was like in the disciplinary.
I'm in the disciplinary center.
Okay.
And so I started asking questions, and I actually went and learned about ACT. But the crazy part about it, that summer I was expelled, and I had actually failed the class because Valley Park denied me attendance. I had missed so many days of school, and one of the teachers would not allow me to take my final exam because she said I missed too many days. So I ended up having to go to summer school at Baton Rouge High. So picture this, the summer, I'm at Baton Rouge High. I just saw college. I'm trying to get there. So for the first time, I'm gonna sign up for my ACT. You know, I got an 18 by ACT. Now Northwestern said you needed 22. Now they had a such thing. People know about this. There's a thing called this conditional provisional acceptance, but it was remedial classes. Now I didn't know what remedial meant, but I didn't care what it meant. All I know is I'm going to college.
Trying to get there.
I'm trying to get there.
All right.
So they enrolled. So I'm provisionally accepted based off of my high school diploma. Now I know I'm still working on it. So look, long story short, I go tell my mom, like, Mom, I'm accepted in college. Now, you know, ain't nobody finna believe me because I'm sitting in summer school. I just got expelled a couple months ago. And so I'm sitting in summer school with a letter said I'm provisionally accepted in the school I just learned of a month and a half ago. Went to my ACT, all that stuff happened in a month and a half.
You move fast.
Moving fast. And so I'm sitting in there, it's August. So I'm packing up my stuff. I went to Northwest State with dreads in my head, with a clear book sack from high school, with one little suitcase, with a long T-shirt.
He was still rocking the clear book bag, man. Look, for those who don't know, that was mandated in EBR Parish back, you know, some time ago when guns and knives were being, you know, brought to school. So they made us do like either a mesh,
or a clear book bag.
Or a clear book bag. So
I walked to Northwest with my clear book bag.
You rocking a clear book bag
in college. And look, I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And I didn't have a lot of clothes, anything like that. And so I'm in my dorm. I say, oh, I'm here. You know, I'm looking around college life. I see the girls. I see the different people. I say, oh, I'm in the right place. And then the first call I get the next day, the admissions called me.
Right.
They say, Mr. Banguel, we need to have a meeting with you. I'm like, oh, man, I just got here. The first thing they said was, sir, we don't have a copy of your high school diploma. I was like, well, I hadn't got it yet. I just graduated. They said, well, how did you get in the school without your high school diploma? I was like, y'all accepted me, shoot. I mean, I don't know.
So you might want to check in your office.
Yeah, look, but the lady got it squared away. They looked up at the system and saw that I had, back in the day in Baton Rouge, it's called a rainbow graduation in the summer because everybody from all over the parish.
Right.
So I got the high school diploma. The rest is history. And so I'm in college, and then, of course, that's when I really started to find out what could I give back to my community. And when I graduated, I ran for SGA at Northwestern. That's when I first experienced racism. That
you had experienced racism before that?
Oh, I did, but not in that level of degree because of the fact that African Americans at the time were less than 12% at Northwest State.
Okay. And
so, and at that time, no one African American was on the SGA. Mm-hmm. So my freshman year, you know, my perception, like I told you, you know, was that, you know, they was like, man, we don't want this dude out here because they had to vote for me to get on the SGA, and they did not accept me at that time, and so I knew the Robert Rules of Order. I'm like, hold on, this ain't right. A couple people ain't here to vote for me.
Right.
You know, what about them? So, you know, I went to I had a whole grievance about this. And long story short, I was able to get on. And I just started learning more and more about, you know, back at home, like people like me, you know, who need that extra help, you know, that church member, you know, because back in the day, it really was a village to raise a child.
Right.
You know, I had my church members who encouraged me, my mom, you know, I learned of my dad later on in life when I was 7, 8 years old. And so all these people encouraged me. And so when I got out of college, I said the first thing I wanted to do was, what can I do to give back? Because oftentimes people like myself, you know, we are misunderstood. You know, we need somebody to give us that extra push. And that's what I started doing. I opened up a nonprofit Louisiana Education Advancement Project, and my first year out, I had over 200 students in the program. We had sports and all that stuff that's in the program, but we were able to see at least 57% of our students on A, B honor roll. Right now to this day, my children honor roll. My daughter, straight A student. My son, honor roll, because I teach the importance of education. Failing education give you higher truancy. Failing education give you higher recidivism. And failing education is the reason why communities are the way they are. And the more we increase education systematically, we can decrease poverty, because poverty is such a holistic issue. But if we want a foundation to decrease the poverty in our communities, then we must focus on education. And so that was my ultimate goal, is get as much education as I possibly can. And to this day, I have 4 degrees.
Okay, 4 degrees. Now, when starting your nonprofit, how do you find funding for that? Because that's the other thing. That's the other side of the coin when it comes to activism, because there have been so many shysters, historically, where someone is positioning themselves as, a savior, or I'm here to help, and they pocketing money. So how do you go about getting funding for these to apply the resources to the people that need them?
I'm glad you asked that. So every time I speak with most people, the first thing they ask about is a grant. Let me tell you something. I had no grants. The first thing I did is I go to small businesses. I say, listen, this is what I want to do. Now I had lightning in a bottle, because I went to a construction. I went to 2 construction companies.
So you went straight for the money.
I went straight for the money,
because there's money in construction.
Yeah, I went straight for the money, and was able to pay out over 200 kids. Was able to get brand new equipment for all the sports, all our educational purposes, and I had no 501c3. Passion will get you that first check, baby, but data drives the decimal points to the right.
Okay.
So I got there off passion. I went to the small business owners in our community. I said, listen, this is what we're up against. We got this pipeline in prison industry. We have people, and I'm very adamant about telling my story, because I don't want people to misrepresent that I'm better than, where I come from.
Right.
So I tell people, this is who I was. Now, because you see me now, and, I'm able to tell the story, but don't forget, I walked from, Washington Street to East Polk Street, South Baton Rouge.
Right.
I walked down, from Fairfield to Baton Rouge High to go to summer school. I know how to ride a city bus and get on 3-4 transfers.
Right. We can't just look at chapter 10 without knowing chapter 1.
My mom has walked from, Glen Oaks Drive to the K&B, the Kmart that's right there on Airline. And so I know how it is. And so when I went to these people, I told them straight up, what better way to have somebody to go represent something? They've been through it.
Right.
And I had no money motivation. At that time, listen, I'm a store manager of a CVS pharmacy, and I have no desire for money, because I already had it.
Right.
I opened my own business. So everything I did was for
what was the
betterment.
business?
Well, at the time, that other than my nonprofit, I also had a consultant. So I would consult little small businesses on how to open up, get registered with the state, little things, which I didn't think was such an important thing in our community, because a lot of Black-owned businesses, pay money on the back end because they don't know how to do things from the front end.
Right.
Your basic accounting issue, your organizational structure, all these things that you paying somebody to do, you can simply do it yourself and save, and have more money on the bottom line. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing all this consulting with churches and all these different entities so that I could get, and my really goal was not really so much that it was a business, but it was a service, and so I did all that. I was going to talk at the Metro Council meetings for different types of issues. I was going to the legislature talking about different types of issues, advocating for my community. So I was already doing the work. And so as I progressed, the bigger I got in terms of my mind start. So when the hurricane came, I was like, man, all the resources are going to churches like, Healing Place, Bethany. I said, what happens if I could do it? Right. So what I did was I got on the phone. I started reaching out to 18-wheeler comes as high as Virginia. I organized 5 fully loaded 18-wheelers and brought it to my neighborhood right there in Zion City at Greater Beach Grove Baptist Church and held up traffic all the way down 4th Street, wrapped around the Cadillac Street. And I didn't go through no nonprofits. I didn't go through any special agency. This was just straight grit and just knowing the process.
Or as we say in Baton Rouge, he got it out the mud.
Yeah, I had to, because this is my neighborhood needed it.
Right.
And that's kind of how I started. And then after that, I just progressed. You know, the 18, the Virginia College closed down. And, you know, of course, I don't believe in certain schools like that because I believe they're predatory in terms of you charging people money to pay for tuition, and they'll never make the salary to be able to pay for this. I mean, you go to school paying $18,000 and you're gonna start out with $8 out. You know, I don't believe that's proportionate. So, but however, it's my community, and I'm encouraged because they're going to school. So Virginia College closes down, and I see the news report, and I say, well, wow. Well, what about the kids who graduated, the students who graduated? And many of them are older adults. And for many of them, this is the highlight of their life. Because I was talking with them. I said, I'm going to do a graduation. Now, I kid you not. I went to several people with this idea, do this graduation. I shot in the foot. Oh, man, I ain't going to be able to. These same black folks that talks about how community is so important.
Right.
I go to them, hey, look, let's do this. This is an honorable project. Nothing. Let me tell you, I only went to 3 people. I went to Bethany. Bethany wanted to charge me $5,000. I called the pastor. I said, hold on, this ain't my event. I'm trying to help people.
Right.
They said, well, sir, we could go have, but we had some operational expenses. Cool. So I went to CARES. I got 3 checks. I got Congressman Richmond sent me money for to pay for some programs. CARES South paid for the facility. Denise Barcel sent me some money to pay for something else, and Delta College sponsored us. That was it. That was all the money I got. We had over 2,500 people. I called the sheriff. I said, can I get some free security? I don't have no money for that. Sheriff said, okay, Mr. Banguel, I'm going to send it to you. Call Baker. Can we get the Baker Police Department? The chief sent the and I called. I said, you know what? I'm going to call the Commission of Higher Education. I'll speak at this graduation. I said, because although this is a, you know, considered a vocational school, or, you know, they don't have these type of speakers, but I want to encourage these people to go to pursue higher. So I got people who would, you know, a speaker who just spoke at Southeastern and who speaks at all these different, you know,
Right.
4-year university, come speak at this school.
Right.
Dr. Kim Hunter-Reid came over. And, you know, what was funny about all that? And everything's not about recognition, but sometimes you be like, man, you be looking on Facebook, you be seeing all these people getting these recognitions for a little, nothing really. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, dang, I done put 300 kids graduate. Now, one person in my neighborhood picked that phone up and called and said, man, good job. Now, one elected official. And I said back and I said, wow.
But when the story is told, though, you know, that's the other thing too. Sometimes it's not about immediate recognition, but it's about how history will tell the story.
But you know what I was so impacted by? Was because of the impact I made in the lives of the students. Right.
When they tell the story, then you know.
But I was so I brought that piece up about the elected official piece because that's all they talk about. That's all they talk about. Oh, this, that, and the other. But you had opportunity. Right. And see, it was never about me getting recognition or not. It's about me exposing what seemed to be very hypocritical. You have elected leaders in my neighborhood, in my community. And when you do something like that where it benefits all of us, you can't even say, man, good job.
Well, and that now brings us back up to speed now.
There you go.
When we talk, we want to talk about politics and everything now. So, you know, and really community activism and politics really kind of work hand in hand. I'm not sure a lot of people even realize that, you know, those are 2 of the same functions really, because an elected official is a public servant for the people.
That's right.
You know, an activism, a community activist is supposed to be the person that, you know, almost acts like a liaison for the people to the elected official. So these 2 things work hand in hand. So it brings us to, you know, the current thing. You have worked on several campaigns, have you not?
I have.
Tell me about the campaigns that you've worked on, the capacity that you worked in them on, you know, because some people are just volunteer. But as I understand, you've actually been campaign manager and so
the top dog, man.
Yeah. So tell me about the campaigns that you've worked on and the capacity that you were in with the campaign.
So my most proudest one is Judge Emily Johnson Rhodes.
Okay.
Now I was her campaign manager as well as her dad's.
Okay.
They're both judges right now.
So you just a legacy campaign manager.
And you know what? Judge Johnson gave me my first opportunity to run it from top down. And when you talk about running a judge race and how much money it is, you do want to go to somebody who have a proven track record.
Right.
Okay? But Judge Johnson was like, listen, you know, he helped my sister, which was his sister was Linda Dewey. She ran for Metro Council. Mm-hmm. And so we was in a runoff with her. We lost less than 1,000 votes. And so he was like, man, and I came in a runoff party. He said, man, if we able to get that kind of increase, let me just see what he can do from the beginning. You know, so the election was November. We started off in March.
Right.
So I worked from March to where we are. And what's so special about that race was that prior to Mr. Johnson and Torval Smith winning, there had never been an African-American judge elected in the northern part of our parish. And so that was the first time it had ever happened.
Okay.
And so the work that it took to make that happen, and we went against a guy who was considered, someone primed for the position. His dad was a judge. His dad is still a judge on the Court of Appeals. He was a Baker City councilman. He was a Metro Council member. He was a Zachary prosecutor, and he was going against Ronald Johnson. Now we know him in the South.
Okay.
And all the stuff that he did for us in the South, but when you go in Baker, Zachary, Central, and part of Baton Rouge,
maybe a little.
You have to reintroduce.
Right.
And Judge Johnson is a humble man. And the stuff that he did, I said, why won't nobody know about it? You are walking Black history. You know, you're the lawyer who ended, who helped settlement of the longest desegregation case in our parish. You was attorney that helped with that settlement. You helped with the 6th Metro Council seat. That 6th seat that we have, Council 6, it was because of his advocacy and his lawsuits. We created the 6th congressional, the 6th district of the Metro Council. Also the GE testing that used to be. He was the lawyer that ended that because Black folks would get to 12th grade and they would get all their credits and they can't graduate because they can't pass the GE testing. So he was a lawyer that ended that. He was also the lawyer who advocated there was no Black prosecutors East Baton Rouge Parish. Tony Clayton became the first one because he, countless others, sending petitions to the then attorney before Hilly Moore. Hey, there's no Black people in his office.
Which is completely lopsided and it's not a fair representation of the demographics of the city.
Yeah, and so you have people like that who've been doing this work.
Right.
So when I got, I'm like, man, this is just automatic.
Right.
Man, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I called some same Black politicians.
Okay.
Who knew about his track record. They would not support him. Called him. I'm gonna stay out of it. How you gonna stay out of something? A man who, matter of fact, Torval Smith seat that he had on city court would not have had it without Judge Johnson's litigation suit. We created the at-large seat. When I say we, I mean us as African Americans.
Right.
Created that at-large seat. So you got a man who's done all this work, and they still did not want to help this man.
What was the purpose, do you think, that they wanted to stay out of it?
Well, politics, for one, his brother was already on the court. Mm-hmm. And so what's dumb about it is, which one of these cameras did? What's dumb about it is that you gonna penalize. They didn't want the Johnson power at the 19th Judicial District Court. That's what everybody was saying. That's too much power for one family. I'm sitting here thinking, ain't that stupid? You want the best person to represent all of us.
Yeah, you can't penalize success.
And so that was what he's up against. His brother up there, and they don't want and I was thinking to myself, well, Judge Higginbotham, mother was on the court of appeal, Miss Tony.
Yeah.
Her son is on the district court, Bo. And then you have her daughter, Whitney Higginbotham, which my other candidate, we're going to get into that, is John Ann Matthews. We beat her too. But nobody said anything.
Right.
So you got two brothers. So they didn't want to help him. And I'm specifically talking about the Black politician.
Right.
And I was really ticked off about that. And I saw even some Black community activists was trying to play both sides. They was helping the opponent, and they was trying to tell us we gonna stay out of it. But I'm on the streets. I see all the ballots out there. I see what everybody doing. I'm like, man. Now my candidate was upset.
Yeah.
But you know what? Him being a pastor, he was. You know what he told me? He said, "Dang, don't worry about it," because I was pissed off for him.
Right.
I say, this is the disrespect we did. He said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "Go make a name and let's win this race." And man, I had Mr. Johnson up. When I tell you 3 and 4 churches a Sunday, walking these streets, Mr. Johnson be tired. He's like, man, we done today? I say, no, we not done. Because we got to bring it to the people. Right. I say, forget these politicians. Because all they gonna do is get on your flyer and take credit for you win if you win anyway. Because they're not gonna do anything for you. They ain't gonna give you no check.
And we gonna get the flyers too, because you just had a recent social media rant. I was able to, and that was one of the topics. We gonna get to that, but okay. So you worked on Judge Johnson's campaign.
Judge Johnson,
okay.
His daughter, Judge Jonelle Matthews.
Okay, and so you were the campaign manager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep going.
Also, I have a ballot system, right?
Okay.
So I have this ballot. I distribute 80,000 throughout the parish. So I've had Judge. Foxworth, Judge Christopher Dawson. I've had Judge Gail Grover. It's just a laundry list. Mayor Broom. I was also on her transition team when she first won.
Right.
And so I've helped probably, Senator Regina Barrow's re-election.
Okay.
You name it, every level of government, I've had my hands in it. Really, almost like we're gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunate enough, I've been able to win all of them. But sometimes you have your day where you're not gonna win. But I think the reason why I've been successful at it is because of the approach that I take. And the approach I take is you have to earn the vote from people.
Yeah.
You can't manipulate them and bring hot dogs and cookies to the people and free haircut. Not saying that's not something we do.
Yeah, but
you need more.
Yeah, you can't just base it off of it's almost like a bribe.
Yeah.
And you can't go out there and bribe the people.
And I want the community to hold these people accountable. Oftentimes, politicians go in the community, tell you what they're gonna do, and then they realize when they get in that position, they up against a whole bunch of obstacles. But the community doesn't see what they up against. They believe in the promises that were made. Mm-hmm. Forget the fact that you minority, you don't have a controlling vote, no matter how much advocacy you're doing. But you telling the people, all this is what you gonna get done.
Right.
And you got potholes in your street. The tree fell out on the house. It's just a lot of stuff going on.
People are more into the tangibles.
They want to see it.
They want to see it. They don't want to hear about, well, we doing this and that, and I want to see it. Okay, so now currently, you're also working on the Karen Carter Peterson campaign.
Yeah, I'm a strategist for that. I'm a consultant for Karen Carter Peterson for Congress, and of course, I've been knowing Ms. Karen for a while. I'm also the vice chairman of the Louisiana Democratic Party, so I was voted in last year. But prior to that, Ms. Karen wrote my letter of recommendation for law school, and she was also the state party chair. So I had already known her, what she represented and stuff like that. And so it was really easy for me. I know her already. That's,
right.
Now I didn't know what people knew about her now. But I knew what I knew about him,
right.
So of course,
that's all you can go on.
I can go and look. I'm a loyal type of dude,
right?
You know what I mean. Now I did speak with the other candidate. He did, they did offer me a little look, bruh. But I'm a loyal type of dude. If I'm with you, I'm with you.
Right.
You can't write my recommendation letter, and I'm gonna go against you. You know what I mean? I'm not that type of dude. You know. So I'm like, I'm with Miss Karen. Me and her talk, and that's how that started. Of course, the people that was in the race, you had 15, but the people we know of.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
You had Gary from Baton Rouge, you had Karen, you had Troy those are 3 front runners, essentially based off of the amount of money it was able to raise. Then you had Mr. Classy Bernard, the lone Republican candidate, who also I would say in the top 5 too. Right. So it was really that race because of the resource they were able to. It's 10 parishes, so you do need money to spread your message. So.
Which that logic went into when we were producing the debate up here. Mm-hmm. Is okay, which one seemed to be the most viable? Of course, we we have limited time. We can't have
15 minutes.
15 people up here talking. We got to go with like at least the top 5.
Yeah.
So that's what we went. So yeah, I understand that logic.
Yeah, because I mean it's 15. You had some candidates who didn't even have $100. Okay, I mean I'm not gonna. You can't win no congressional race. You sitting there with a white T-shirt on there with a hole in your shirt, talking about what you. No, bro. Now this ain't for you. Find something else to do.
I don't know who you're talking about, but yes, I agree.
Not no Congress, man. You got to find something else.
Right.
And so that's kind of how the candidates and then the Democratic Party, we go up and endorse all the Democrats. I'm like, why?
I noticed that.
So we don't have to.
Yeah, tell me why would the party just endorse everybody with a D by their name?
Because they really didn't want that smoke, really. Because you had. Let's keep it real. Congressman Richmond got the stroke right now. We've never had anybody in Louisiana close to the White House as we do now. We have somebody in the White House.
This is true.
So you're not really finna offend the person who's endorsed the candidate, which he did with Troy Carter.
He did.
And you're not finna offend the state party chair who you just succeeded. So we just gonna cop out and just endorse everybody. Now, I didn't agree with that but we did it.
Wouldn't it have been better for them to just not endorse anyone?
No, indeed, no. Because, see, they worried about, because at the end of the day, they worried about the money.
Of one, right?
Yeah, they were worried about, they looking at the money that's going to come in after that. They look, let's keep it, that's no secret. Congressman Richmond is an asset to the Democratic Party.
It really wasn't a good move
to endorse one, no.
To do anything. So
we did.
Okay, so I know you called it a cop out, but
we copped out. We
in the same sense, in it's almost like you're playing pool. You don't have a shot, but it's your turn, so you just got to hit the ball.
And it's almost like this: we're gonna endorse everybody. We kind of already know who's gonna win because we already knew who's gonna be top 2 anyway. But it's kind of like we just gonna go ahead and do it just to do it.
Mm-hmm. So you're a strategist on Karen Carter Peterson's campaign as well. Mm-hmm. This is the first time that you haven't just been in charge of a campaign, I see. Because all the rest of them, you were kind of campaign manager, and this one, you're more of a strategist.
I'm a strategist. So I'm tasked with East Baton Rouge and West Baton Rouge.
Okay.
My first go-round, and some of the river parishes. And so, basically, Miss Karen said, Daniel, go do what you do, go win these parishes.
Right.
And that's what I did.
Okay.
And so
you're still kind of in charge of your sector.
My sector, because when you deal with a congressional race, now just recently, I was the consultant for District 6 congressional race against Gary Gray. So I was able to get my feet wet. I had a Democrat. We got about 35, 36 in a district that's 77% Republican. But we was, I was able to see how the landscape go.
Right.
And so the next race happened to be right afterwards, and I kind of understood the congressional breakdown. And so I'm like, oh man, these river parishes, I understand it because I've been in them.
Right.
And so I was over East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge parishes. We had before I got on the campaign, we had a campaign manager. We had a field director, and we had a few ancillary positions that were intact before I even signed my name on them, which I didn't come on to January. Okay, and so basically,
so you came on after
the day before qualifying day.
Okay.
And of course, I'm in all the senior meetings. I'm part of the team, the highest level shot calls. You see what I mean? So I'm there. But you do need a team, okay?
Right.
And because 10 parishes is a lot, and so I never had an issue. Whatever I said I was gonna do was never questioned. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, Ms. Karen said, "Look, you know how to do this already, bro. Do your thing."
Now,
pretty much.
Did you when the votes were tallied? When it was all the 15 people in there, and then it was right before the runoff. Were you guys a little nervous with the numbers coming back? Because it was closer than a lot of people thought it would be.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a nail biter, but it was so much of what we could have did better.
Right.
And that's kind of how we looked at that race. What could we have done better? And there was a lot of opportunity for us to do a lot of other things better. And of course, to be honest with you, I was looking at my area.
Okay.
I was like, man, what did my area do? My area won. My area won.
Right.
And
but she came up short.
She came up short
in her home,
in her hometown. And I believe when you have 17% of the vote turnout, there's a lot of votes still left on the table. And sometimes you gotta understand this, as a seasoned veteran politician, people want to see a fresh face.
Right.
People tired of the status quo, and in some regard, she may have been the status quo. She may have been the person that people is
that even a fair tag to put on her or Troy Carter's being the status quo if they've because they're not vying for a position that they've already had. This is something new for both of them too.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So is that even a fair tag? Because that tag was put on them.
I would say this. From a sheer definition, no. But for the people who are not political, in depth with what these terms mean, they just see a person who's been in an elected position for all these years.
So is it kind of playing on people's naiveness?
Well, I would say that a lot of folks, that's why I said the education piece is important. A lot of folks don't understand what any black elected officials up against. When you are the minority, I'm not talking about the barely, you all the way down. You got 105 state representatives, only 39 of them Democrats. Mm-hmm. It's how much are you going to get done? Nothing. You got 39 state senators, 15 of them Democrats. What are you going to get done? Nothing.
Right.
So you really... So it's easy for somebody to put wordplay on you. Man, you've been elected. Man, you ain't got nothing done. Well, obviously, no one will, because this ain't our show, And so so the strategy really is to get more seats elected.
Right. But now the person that blew that bullhorn the most, Mr. Chambers, recently endorsed your candidate.
Yeah.
How does that work? Because that's the person that said the most about the quote unquote status quo, and now he is one of the leading surrogates. Well,
I said before the election, come Monday morning, he was going to be working with us because it was obvious. Here's the thing. I think Gary had the best social media campaign of all of them.
But did his return number surprise you? Because
I'm gonna be honest with you, it did, but it didn't, because of the inside information that I know about certain stuff.
Okay. But
yes, it surprised me because I didn't expect someone to get that larger. But you got to understand, you got 21% inside of a 17% cap.
Right.
You know what I mean? And at this point, it's who could get that people out the most.
And we have to look at the fact that historically, even when there is an election, just talking amongst my friends, I said this is like an off-brand election because it's not in a presidential, it was a special election. Yeah. So when you have that, voter turnout is already slim, even when it's a presidential election. But when you don't have that next to it, now it's like it's even slimmer.
I think his whole messaging from the beginning is how he got his numbers. He was quoting the Louisiana stats, and he's comparing the Louisiana stats to those who were in the legislature. Mm-hmm. Now it's a bit misleading because Louisiana was ranked 50 before they, way before they even had anything to do with it. Right. And you can't put the weight of the state on two legislators when they're one vote. So it's really just a wordplay, which benefited them because people were like, well, yeah, they haven't done anything. But the reality is, what can you one vote do when you are already the minorities? Louisiana is ranked the way it is because of a collective amount of votes. Mm-hmm. And so the wordplay was right on time, and people want to see new leadership, and that's another thing that was going for them. People want to see that fresh blood, fresh ideas.
Are we as people getting too caught up in new as opposed to qualified?
I believe in so many regards,
because new is how we got Trump as president.
There you go.
Let's be honest about this.
That's right.
New is how we got celebrity.
That's right.
but we're ignoring qualifications. So that's why I'm asking you.
No, because here's the thing: the average voter in that congressional district education level isn't that high anyway, and it's just the reality. When you talk about the education level,
it goes back to your point about more education.
The average education level right here in East Baton Rouge Prison, the indigents, 85% of those that go to East Baton Rouge Parish are considered indigents. They are below the poverty line. Their education level is below 8th grade. Now, you take that same number, you look at North Baton Rouge, where you talk about the education level, and in some regard, it's even below 8th grade collectively. So you have these same people who oftentimes are disenfranchised, no sense of hopelessness across the board because nothing they see is happening. They already disenfranchised, they already disconnect, and voter apathy. Too many elections. So you have a combination of all this stuff, and then boom, you got somebody come out of nowhere. Look. Now, they ain't said nothing they was going to do, but they going to talk about what hadn't gotten done. Right. And for some people, that's what resonates with them.
That was good enough because it was cosmetic.
That's it. Because they're looking, he right. You know, that power was still in the street.
So isn't that the same as what we were speaking about earlier when, you got politicians to come out and just give out free haircuts and hot dogs? Nothing but cosmetics, but no real undergirding of any real change, because even calling it misleading isn't that very disingenuous to apply that word play, knowing that these people don't know any better.
Well, at the end of the day, the people also have to be accountable.
This is true.
If you keep letting people come in your neighborhood offering you hot dogs and you give them your vote, then you have to take a look at you're gonna keep getting what you've been getting because you're doing what you've been doing.
Right.
And so some of that onus got to go on the people too. I mean, because if I'm a politician, I know all I gotta do is do this. Is it really my fault? Because you letting me do it, and so at the end of the day, our community has to be more educated on the issues at hand. And I think some of these activists, that's their opportunity to do that. Some of these organizations, the churches, and all these organizations out here, that's their opportunity to. But some of them predatory too. I mean, they eat. So I mean, it's
now and kind of exposing activists for being predatory. I mean, even when you look at the fact of we brought up the fact that Karen didn't win Orleans, but Mr. Chambers didn't win Baton Rouge.
Correct.
Now, is that more so? And I'm going to ask you this, and be very frank with me about this. I hope you will.
I will.
You seem like
I will.
Would you attribute that more to your ground game because this was your area that you was working? Would you attribute that more to your ground game or people not falling for the hot dogs from Mr. Chambers?
I'm going to say this, because I ain't going to be arrogant and say it's a combination. When the same thing that happened to Karen happened here.
Right.
And it's because the people know that person. And when you know somebody, it's nothing I can do, anybody can do to convince you than what you've already believed about an individual.
Right.
And
when we say we know that person, is it because there's a slim track record there as well?
Absolutely. Everybody have a track record, and to Mr. Chambers' credit, he's been an activist on numerous issues, and so people know of him. Now, when it's time to run, also was a litmus test to his effectiveness in his own area, because I've often thought that activism has to be more than one-sided. You can go and you can talk about these issues, because I'm gonna be honest, I ain't gonna take anything away from anybody who's doing anything,
right?
Because but I will say this: in the black community, they want to know what kind of skin you got in the game, and right. Meaning you can't just go and talk good stuff. They want to actually see some tangible results.
They want to see your win-loss record.
There you go.
So like when we were speaking about you, and that's why I say even by looking at your website, when you first came in, you laid it out. You say, listen, this is my record on this, and you listed a lot of tangibles. Does Mr. Chambers have any kind of tangibles?
I would say in terms of avocation, but I do think some of it could be embellished because it was a team effort. Because even me, some of those things, Alistair, I was on the front lines too.
Right.
But I'm not around here using that as a win because
Right.
it took all of us to do that. You know, the hospital.
And to your credit, the things you named off, those were your specifics wins.
That I ran
Right.
from top down. I wasn't a helper. I wasn't just passing cards out. It was my design, my operation. And so when it's a team effort, I get a team credit.
Exactly.
I'll be like, hey, because of me, this got done. Because the reality of East Baton Rouge Parish is this: the reality of Earl K. Long was the dilapidated, and it was already there was already. So let's go back. I just tell you the brief history about it. Earl K. Long. When we lose the governor's race, we lost Earl K. Long. It had nothing to do with any advocation of any advocate.
No.
Let me explain how it happened. So when Senator Broome and Kip Holder was in the legislature, there was funds set aside to remodel Earl K. Long Hospital. Okay,
because
it was time to do that.
Right.
However, when Bobby Jindal won, he wanted to privatize the hospital industry, which means Earl K. Long and the charity hospital in New Orleans were the only left charity hospitals. Mm-hmm. So he did not want that. So the money that would have been used was reappropriated somewhere else. And ultimately, Earl K. Long fell to not being funded anymore.
Which laid the groundwork for it to be demolished.
And that's it. That's what happened.
Right.
And so let's fast forward. Now North Baton Rouge will have no hospital. And we next to a plant that anytime can blow up. There's no burn unit. There's nothing. Somebody gets shot. Because essentially that thing we have on, back up. That emergency room that we have on Airline Highway is not a hospital. They only have no operational room.
They can only do so much.
They can bandage you up and send you back to the hospital.
Right. They can only do so much.
You see what I'm saying? So you technically still, because our emergency room is not supposed to be a standalone.
No.
It's supposed to be in combination with a hospital. I patch you up and you go to the hospital for care. We don't have it. So if I get shot up 20 times, they take me over there.
You might as well
there's
call
no
the
operational room.
You might as well call the coroner.
Because ain't nothing going to happen. So what Mr. Chambers and many others was doing
was playing on.
Well, I'll go a little further because I will give him and many of them because I know the story. There was a hospital champion. That champion hospital, believe it or not, black doctors had came together and they wanted to service our community. But let me tell you what happened. Our Lady Lake starved their clientele, which meaning that they were doctors. And they were doctors at Our Lady Lake Hospital. However, this was where their clinic was. So they were being fed through the hospital. Mm-hmm. Well, they starved them. They stopped feeding them. So if you stop feeding somebody, what happens? You can't pay for what?
No, you can't.
So they left.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left.
You can't get blood from a turnip. So
they starved the black doctors that were there. So now the house, this nice building, is essentially vacant because there's nothing in there. And so now you have a building. And so Mr. Chairman and other people was like, man, this is already a perfect location. It's already built. But it was still undeveloped. The fourth floor didn't even have nothing in it. It was just concrete. So if you walk in there now, it's still like that. So his application was to bring and him and others wanted to bring the hospital there and started this healthcare corridor. Now, in a sense, when that happened, Governor John Bell Edwards did his research on Champion, and he did not believe in boutique-style types of facilities because that's all they had ever been. They've never been known to be a hospital. Right. They've been known to be a boutique-style, that's it. Yeah. And so he thought a better idea would be to partner with the largest hospital we have in East Baton Rouge Parish and bring their services to North Baton Rouge. And that's what he did. Right. And so that's how that happened. And so
Now, and even with that, and like you said, there's a lot of moving parts with that. Mm-hmm. But the big claim to fame, for Mr. Chambers, with him being branded a fighter, was the Connie Bernard situation.
Well, I start off with Alex Sterling because Alex Sterling really he got it because we all out there. And
I'm talking about nationally, how he's been branded as a
well,
fighter
nationally too, because I also on national for Al Sterling too. I was on Fox News, MSNBC too.
Right.
So he was out there nationally somewhat with Al Sterling. I mean, it lost traction because you got to do more than just because once that story goes, you know. But I would say this: it recatapulted him to higher than Al Sterling with the entrepreneur, because. And let's be honest, he caught her dead right. I mean, she was doing what she was doing, and he caught her. But
I'm talking about the aftermath of it.
Yeah, it was the selling shirts and stuff.
What I'm saying is the aftermath of, can we brand someone being a fighter if they didn't win the fight? Because the initial thing was because they were trying to rename Lee High School. We know that's been a issue for a long time.
I was a part of that too.
Okay. A lot of people were a part of that.
Right.
A lot of people were a part of that.
But I wasn't around.
Now, with that, with calling her out, with being, she's being callous, she ain't paying attention, yada, 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 right? Mm-hmm. I remember school board member Darius Lanus getting on the news.
Right.
He initiated the recall effort.
Right.
I think he gave her a timeline to resign, or we're going to get this recall thing going, right?
Right.
Okay. The recall effort gets put out there. Chambers is nowhere to be found. Mm-hmm. He's being posted. He's gone viral. All of these things, right?
True.
But he has nothing to do with the actual recall effort to get her out. Because that's the goal, right? To get her removed.
Right.
How is he a fighter if he didn't participate in the fight?
Well, I would say this, and from your perspective, you're right. Because let me tell you something to Mr. Chambers. I can name you about 5 or 10 others that do the same thing.
Right.
Start off and never complete anything. The follow up.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I think once he advocated for that, I guess to his credit, he would say he was never tasked with the follow-up. He was just tasked with blowing the horn. I'm sure that's what he would say. Well, but I would say in terms of I'm going to start, so I'm going to finish it too.
Well, and I can't even, I'm being honest, I can't let him off the hook with that. Because
No. Let me start off. No, I ain't letting him off the hook because here's the thing. If you're going to make money off of it, which like you were saying, selling the T-shirts and all that, and then you just stop talking about it, then yeah, you should be held accountable just like you hold everybody else.
But also sending people on a fool's errand.
On a what?
He's sending people on a fool's errand.
Oh yeah.
He got up every day and he told people to call the school board office, knowing that will not remove an elected official.
Yeah.
So again,
you're right.
How do we?
You didn't win the fight, bro. You didn't win. You selling wolf tickets. Look, the bottom line is this: he didn't win that fight, and I don't because the proper. First of all, here's the thing. And make no mistake about it. For all the good stuff that he does, whatever it may be, it could be overshadowed with a lot of other things. And so my thing is when you have such a big, because I share some of these same issues too. When you're passionate about something, you sometimes you seem to be overzealous. And sometimes that's what he is. He calls it. He put the horse before the cart.
Right.
So before you actually put in the work, you call it out, and then it never get done. That is his legacy, and he has to fix that. And like I said, there's a lot of issues that it's like, well, bro, you done abandoned it, and it's like if he doesn't get, and like I said, I can wholeheartedly say I was like that too. Is that I'm I get it, I want to get it done. But when it don't happen fast enough, I'm gonna switch my focus somewhere else, and I think that's what he does, and like I said.
But again, there are differences because that may happen in some instances, but there's still a foundation of a track record to stand on, tangibles.
Now, let me say this. I would say this.
I have to applaud you about that.
Right.
So again, like I said, anyone can hop up and say I'm a community activist. Mm-hmm. There's a very low bar to say I'm a community activist. There's no test you have to take. Mm-hmm. Ain't no degree there. You can just hop up one day and say, boom, I'm a community activist. Mm-hmm. I applaud you for having an actual track record, though. That means something because anyone can say it, but are you doing it?
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing: your words have to, like my boy Braylon always say, your words have to become D's that meet needs. And so I take it seriously because I'm from there. I'm like,
Right.
look. And that's why I do it the way I do it, because I'm looking at the next young man who gonna be misjudged, because I'll misjudge a lot.
Right.
I know how it is to go to East Baton Parish prison. I've been arrested.
Right.
All this stuff. I'm okay saying that because
you're trying to come back and correct for the next generation.
Yeah, I can't make a difference to anybody else if they look at me now and be like, "Oh man, he better than." Nah, bro. Nah, I'm not better. Listen, I just made a different choice, and you have a better choice. Wiser people learn from mistakes of others, and so you need to learn from what I did that was wrong, because. And my kids got to be better than what I was. And so that's the whole point of making this generational change, is you have to be better than the last generation. And so if I keep on pretending like I'm better than this, and they fall into the same issue that I did, then what really am I really impacted?
Now, something else that you just said, I can't act like I'm better.
Right.
To me, that means that you're okay with taking suggestions from people as well, too. That's another issue. Because, and listen, here's the thing, and I really want to clear this up because people really get this confused with me. Mm-hmm. This is not hate. Right. We got to stop branding when you raise an issue with someone, you hating. It ain't hate. I think that everyone, if you're in the public atmosphere, you got to be willing to be vetted. Mm-hmm. But you also got to be willing to take what someone says in consideration. Mm-hmm. I've publicly told him, when he was doing the whole call the school board thing, I said, that's not going to work. I said, according to the rules, da-da-da-da.
And all this stuff that you're saying, that's probably why...
Do you know what his response was?
What?
You don't get to tell me what's effective because you read some rules. Now, how is that going to win? I look at it like this. We're all on the same team.
You know the rules, though, to be able to play the game.
I can't show up to the basketball court wearing cleats and then get mad when somebody say you wearing cleats.
Well, I'm going to say this. I was, for me, and with all due respect, I agree with you. Anybody asks me about it, I'm going to tell them just like I'm telling you, look, we on camp. I don't know how you go from losing 74% in the same neighborhood a year later and think you finna win a race 10 times than this one. So I was already lost on that logic. But again, different race, different folk. But in order to be a community servant, a public servant, servant leadership, you have to put the people's needs ahead of your own.
Right.
If you're gonna be effective. And I would say this. And I'm gonna call it straight shooter. Gary has a lot of good in terms of, because I've seen him go to these areas, and I've seen him. Let me say this. I believe he believes in what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? I believe that he believes that what he's doing is the right way. Now, other people might not think it's the right way or the method of what he's doing, but I'm convinced that what he's saying, he believes that. I'm convinced that he has some good intentions on what he's trying to do. I'm convinced because I didn't just meet this dude. And so with that being said, I'm a little more understanding of certain stuff that many people might overly criticize that he's doing, because I know. And so when people just giving him, the business, and they give it to him all the time, I can sit back and look and be like, well, and that's just if you just think about you knowing a person. You be like, but I've been knowing him. And my first time knowing this dude, we was both ministers at the church next door to this building with Apostle Rogers at a teen summit way before we even got in this game. And so I've been knowing the dude. And so when I saw and we've had meetings and meetings. Now, I don't believe in his approach. I'm very clear on that. I believe that you have to have a calculated approach. You got to know who you dealing with, and you got to be able to engage them. Now, if you already
that's if you're
trying to get a win.
That's if you're trying to get a win.
Now, if you're trying to win, then you can do that.
But is it more profitable to not win?
It ain't profitable, bro. You got to win, man. If you're trying to get what you're trying to get, you got to have a strategic mindset. You got to be like the Bible say. You got to be. You got to be humble as a dove, wise as a serpent. You got to know what you're dealing with, because there's some serpents in there. Well, you also got to be humble too to accept some of the criticisms you're gonna get.
When I say, is it more profitable to not win? What I mean is the treatment more profitable than the cure?
Well, in some regard, it is.
So that's why I'm saying the only thing I can base it on is what I see and the approach. And if you're ignoring, if you're not taking in advice, keep in mind, we all black. So we all trying to win. I want to see all of us win. But if you're not willing to take in advice, are you really trying to win, or are you just trying to sell the treatment? These are things that I just think of.
And again, I get what you're saying.
It ain't hate.
No, it ain't hate. And I think you're right. I think it's a combination of both. It really is depending on the individual, because the individual may set that precedence on, and I'm gonna tell you something. When you're in public service, you got to deal with the good and the bad.
Exactly.
And that's why you only need 50% plus one. So you got to deal with the good and the bad. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to be humble to accept some criticism, especially it's people who have nothing to gain from it. I mean, you got a random person who have nothing to gain from it, and they say, "Look, this is what," and you arrogant enough not to listen. Even if you never take it, because listening is free. You don't have to take the advice. You just listen to it. But I ain't never told nobody I ain't about to listen to what they got to say. Now, I might walk out and be like, man, that was stupid. But I ain't about to tell him that. And I'm going to be respectful to what he said, but I ain't about to be like, man, that ain't. And
I'm definitely not going to tell someone you don't get to tell me what's effective.
Oh, no.
Because you read the rules.
I ain't saying that. That ain't smart, because you don't know who you talking to. Man, you been around there and say that the wrong one. You never know who you talking to. They been messing around there and mess. Look, that's why I say you got to be humble and wise. Because I've met some people. I was literally talking to the vice president of Shell Oil and Gas a couple months ago. At an event, he was. I don't know who I'm talking to.
But this is also why my father told me this a long time ago. And I know everybody, has read this before too. You shake the janitor's hand the same way you shake the CEO's.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
But here's the deeper meaning behind that, because the janitor may have the ear of the CEO. When everybody leaves the business that day, the CEO might be the last person in there. It's just him and the janitor, and he might say, "What do you think about this, this, and this?" And the janitor might be giving him advice. Now, it's not that the janitor's not smart or anything like that. It's not based on that. It's just, who does he confide in? Some people confide in their barbers. You have people who have multi-million-dollar companies, and they get their best advice from their barber.
Let's think about back. You see that movie Hoodlum, huh? Bomber Johnson confided in the driver.
Right.
The driver took over the empire.
That's how it happened. That's how it happened. Classic movie, by the way.
Hoodlum.
Yes.
And Bobby Johnson, it turned into American Gangster.
Yeah, because
the driver became Denzel Washington.
It was Lucky Luciano's driver, and that's how they were able to hatch the whole plan. Mm-hmm. But the driver was like, "Hey, they talk. They don't think I'm listening." But he was right there with them. He knew it.
Because American Gangster, Denzel used to work for Bumper Johnson.
Right.
And then he learned the whole game.
Yep.
He learned the whole game from being a driver.
Yep, just being around. So you're
right. They will come, but you gonna trust the driver though.
Exactly.
The driver loyalty is to you.
Exactly. But this is why you don't. This is why you show the same respect. It don't matter no one's station in life or their title, because you never know their connection to the person that's actually holding power.
Yeah, see, and this is real life. That's why you can't cut everybody off. And I would say this, because I beat up a lot of. Let me tell you something. I don't even beat up I don't beat up people like Mr. Shame does, but I do put it on people's mind, because here's the thing. Sometimes when there are positions where we all can work together, it'll show our character.
Yeah.
Is it about us or is it about the goal? If there's a situation where all of us collectively can get our people to the next level, and we choose not to engage with one another, it shows that it's not about helping people. It's about you.
Yeah, and it can't be about ego.
It can't be, not in this game. And so a lot of folks have a lot of ego. I'm not going to work with him, regardless of who it hurts. I'm not going to work. And so part of my video was about that. Like,
yeah, I was getting ready to ask. So I heard you mention a little bit about egos and what sparked that, because you know, again, me and you are just kind of really getting acquainted. I think we've traveled in similar circles, but you and I are just kind of really getting acquainted. And when I saw it, I was like, what set him off? Because the time that we spoke briefly at the debate, and even on the phone, and you know, just through Messenger or whatever, you always seem like, you know, cool, calm, collected. And then I saw the video you was going off. I say, what set him off? But I also understand the frustration,
right?
Because it's like we have these golden opportunities right here, and if all I got to do is just move an inch towards you, you move an inch toward this way, this one moves an inch toward, and then we get there, and we're seeing that the only thing that's holding us back is the ego. I understand the frustration.
Well, I'm frustrated because I'm just tired, you know, because, I mean, I thought the whole goal was to help people. That's what I thought it was, I mean, at least for me. And you have people who, their goal is to help themselves by manipulating people.
Treatment or cure.
And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, well, man, for me, you know, when I don't get me wrong, in order for me to go in business with somebody, I do have to believe in them. And for me, for Karen, I'm like, listen, you know, minimum wage is being antiquated. You know, $7 in the United States of America for minimum wage, it's ridiculous. You know, we talk about majority of the plants that are in African American area in communities dumping chemicals in our water system. You know, we need to looking at cleaner air systems. You know, looking at, you know, right now the age of the baby boomer, Medicaid premiums, healthcare premiums are going to be more than double. We're talking about people who can't even afford health insurance. You know, I'm looking at all that stuff like, man, I don't have time to be worried about nobody's ego when we got a community at stake. I'm looking at the next governor. You know, we lose elections when we elect certain types of people.
Right.
You know, we're looking at a governor who rejected Medicaid expansion. That Medicaid expansion helped people in my neighborhood because they didn't have insurance. Some of these people work in jobs they can't afford insurance because they need every dollar they can to take care of their family. I'm worried about issues that affect us all.
Yeah.
I'm looking at poverty, looking at the fact we have no access to food in our community. There's virtually a food desert in North Baton Rouge, or the economic structure, or the lack of education. I'm looking, oh, that's more important than you.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here looking like, dude, I don't care about you, bro. As a matter of fact, if you're going to pimp the community, at least have a car that has 4 new tires.
At least hand out turkeys at Thanksgiving.
Get something for you.
Get your Nino Brown on.
Get your new house or something. You pimping the community and you stay in a little raggedy house down the road. I mean, at least get something out of it if you're going to do it. That's what I'm looking at. Because you ain't got nothing out of it, bro. You done pimped everybody and you don't make but $1,000 a month. And you done pimped everybody for the $1,000 in the title, and you still live in a little regular house you living in. And all I'm saying is if you're gonna mess over people, get something out of it. You know, at least I feel better. Like, oh, we live in a mansion. You ain't getting nothing out of this, because don't nobody gonna put no money in no African American seats because we don't have the control to vote. So you don't have to pimp us out because you're not gonna get anything. So what makes sense is, why don't you help the neighborhood? If there's blighted property, let's find a different budget to figure out, hey, listen, you know, and I could be our mayor for doing things with the blighted property, but it's so much blighted property everywhere. Because the process, you know, once you condemn a home, you have to condemn the home. Because first of all, somebody pays for that, and it's often the person who owns it. So when the city tears it down, they're going to send you a bill. Okay, so, and we need to start holding these people accountable. We need to start these neighborhood associations. Take pride in your neighborhood. The reason why people don't have pride in neighborhood, most people renting houses.
Yeah, they don't own it.
They don't own it. You know what I'm saying? They don't own it. So why do we show people how to own homes? You know, have programs like that. You know, that's why I shout out to Ward Dunn. You know, his little program where he's giving these houses to these single parents but he has a requirement. Hey, get this done, this done, this done. If we go and we educate people, start giving them fish and start teaching them how to fish, we'll be a lot further. We got all these elected officials. We understand the play. Why don't we just give them the resources?
So what action can, you know, take place to help people learn to fish better? I mean, not just with the elected officials, but you're a ground game guy. Mm-hmm. What's the ground game plan to help? Is it just partnering with, you know, finding other organizations that are serious about that and partnering with them, or what's the plan for that? I'm
gonna be honest with you. This might be very harsh, but I'm gonna be honest with you. What do we normally do with flowers? We prune them, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to be a systematic approach. We got to make sure the next generation don't feel this way.
And keep in mind, when you
And
say
I'm not
harsh, when you say harsh, it ain't gonna sound harsh to me because I'm me.
We have to start from a systematic approach. We got to make sure that early childhood education is funded. We got to understand that the ages between 0 and 5, 85 to 90% of a child's brain is developed. We have to start putting resources for they to start educating and knowing better at an earlier age, so we can push out some of these foolishness. Like Dr. King had said, I may not see you get over to the promised line, but you will get there. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that sometimes, and oftentimes, it's really nothing you can do for this generation because they've made their decision. They have made their choice. But however, there are a few people that will join. But you got to make sure it don't keep happening. You know, you got to make sure that the people behind you don't subsequently go into the foolishness that we're currently seeing. So you have to educate them better. And I'm not saying forsake them, but sometimes I am saying, you know what? You know, you've had your chance, bro. Now I'm going to go over to these little babies who has a different trajectory and changing this course. Because we didn't get out of slavery from the people who died. It was a couple generations before we were able to see some of their work.
True.
So I may not see it today. Neither will you. But you better believe
we got to at least lay the groundwork.
The seeds that you're planting is ultimately going to come way before, probably, your generation from here. And so my plan is to be able to do that. Because I can't teach a fool, new tricks. I mean, that's not what I do. You already a fool. I'm like, hey, bro. This is what you need to do. You're going to do something stupid anyway. I mean, I already know that. Yeah. So why am I finna waste my time with somebody that I know ain't going to listen? I'm going to be frustrated myself. But the strategy of making people listen is sometimes you got to go make some people that they respect listen. And so that's why that's why when we doing these elections, the most organized assembly in the world is on church on Sunday morning. Yeah. You get everybody there. That's also the most segregated place in America because you got white churches, black churches.
This is true.
Okay, so
and we also know historically the black church has been the cornerstone of the black community. Even with civil rights, meetings would happen at the church.
That's why they got laws. We don't want y'all to talk about certain stuff. We don't want y'all to talk about this. Because they know that's where the assembly is. Guess what? Some of these older pastors who've been at they're gonna say it. But because you got to teach these people, I believe churches need to be. You just Bible study and Sunday morning service. No, you are access to the community. What programs are you having on Saturdays? Mm-hmm. Your community. Those people need GED programs. What's wrong with partnering up with some of these education services and help these people have an access? They can just walk to your church. Stop opening the doors, man. Mm-hmm. You got 10 churches on one street, and the pastor, I don't talk to that pastor. I don't think God told you that you got to specifically not talk to this pastor. You competing over members and stuff, and you got the Cadillac in the driveway, and you don't even live over here. You live over there. So you preaching hope to people who will never get the Cadillac you have. Now, I'm not saying that, pastors shouldn't get paid for their service or whatever case may be. What I'm saying is that the people are blessing you, then bless them back, man. And how you bless them back? What's wrong with once a year or twice a year, you have a fun, you bless this woman, this single parent mother or father who been busting their butt coming to church every Sunday, whatever, with a car at the end of the year, a used car. You helping this man with teaching him how to fish, you giving him a car so he can get to work. I mean, you can't just keep taking from the people. Mm-hmm. Well, God said get 10%. Okay. What am I gonna get? You know what I mean? Right. You could give something, resources. You could have a GD program. You can have job fairs at the church. You don't need permission for this. So these churches tell me they ain't got this. You don't need no permission to have no job fair, bro. You don't need no permission to have nothing. You could do it just like the government could do it, just like the city hall could do it. You just gotta want to do it. Ain't nothing wrong with pastors saying, hey, pastors, I know it's 5 of y'all on the street. Hey, can we do something together? It don't necessarily got to be in my church. It could be at a community center right there down the road. Can we just come together and do this for the next? They don't even want to do that. They don't want to do that. I had an event at a church.
So basically, what we're dealing with is egos.
There you go, bro.
In both sectors.
There you go, bro.
Elected officials, community. What, in your opinion, what's the answer though? Because if that's the issue, then how do we part of solving a problem is identifying what the actual issue is. So now that, if we here, you and I have sat here on Table Talk and we've identified the main issue with the community is ego. How do we then go about solving that particular issue? Because once that's solved, then you're able to go to step 2, 3, and 4. But first we got to, identify, rectify, then move.
And part of that, man, you have, and I know this is a cliche, but sometimes you got to show them the love of Christ, man. And what I mean by that is you can't treat people how they treat you. Often the people that I represent now have treated me like crap. And now they come to me for help because I didn't do what they did me. And that's hard to grasp that concept. But if here's the thing, I'm gonna be moved by my convictions. I'm not moved by what people say or could do because I'm already blessed.
Right.
I already, if I did nothing else, I have beautiful children, I have a beautiful family, and that's who I'm held accountable for. And so all I have to do is turn off the internet. I ain't got to listen to nothing you got to say. I can turn that computer off. You know what I'm saying? I have a relationship with Christ. And Christ is who gave me my being, gave me my purpose. And sometimes, even along the journey, I gave a brief example during the Easter break about the 12 disciples. The thing about it is, Jesus knew when Judas' time was up. During the Passover, when they had a second meal, he looked over and he said, "Do what you came here to do."
Right.
That said two things to me. Your time is up, bro. And your place have to be filled. And I'm going to use this example, not to go on a tangent, but even with that biblical illustration, Peter also denied Christ 3 times.
Yeah.
You had Judas and you had Peter. Sometimes we can't treat Peter like Judas. Because although Peter denied him 3 times, Peter became one of the biggest advocates of Jesus Christ on his walk.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can misjudge someone. Just because I deny you now, or you deny me now, that means you wasn't purposed to come serve me later down the road.
Right.
But if I treat you like Judas, because the Bible said that Judas, he said that they didn't give him a second chance to get it right. Once he betrayed him, that was it for him. He was done.
Yeah.
But Peter had a couple times.
Yeah.
So you can't treat it. So everybody can't be treated like Judas. It might be Peter that you're treating like Judas.
Right.
And you might be, So you got to also take the biblical concept. You got to understand. Well, listen. At the end of the day, I'm not stupid. At the end of the day, I have wisdom. And if I know somebody don't have my best intentions, I can still love them. I don't have to deal with them.
True.
I don't have to talk down on them. I don't have to spit on their name. I don't have to do none of that.
Yeah.
My only commandment was to love those like Christ loved me. And that Christ didn't say go hold a hand with the snake all day. He didn't say that, so I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question is that the whole purpose of this Christ journey is to instill hope in the people. That's the reason why churches are filled the way they are. Because these people come from hopelessness. These people coming from areas where they like, man, I've done this, I've done that, ain't nothing seem to be going right for me. That's why they come into Christ. That's supposed to be your sacred place. You go on Sunday morning, that's supposed to be the place. But when you have people in the church that's condemning you, then you question, is this the right avenue?
Right.
So you got all this going on now. And then to answer your question, what do? We got to continue to still persevere. Because we may not see it done right now. Instant gratification might not happen for us.
Right.
We might be like, man, you be like, dang, man, I'm tired of this. And the moment when you get tired, that means you might see your first break. Because I was tired of many times.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm tired of this.
But you got to keep showing up.
I just kept going.
I just
keep showing up for work. And guess who's seeing it? Those 300 students I told you about? Because if it was about me, I would have gave up. Because I told you, I ain't getting no recognition.
Right.
But I went on did more and more things.
But those are also the seeds that's been planted.
That's all I'm saying. Those are the seeds. And to this day, I get Facebook messages. Thank you, Mr. Banguel. Thank you. And you know what? I sit back and I said to myself, I would have wanted somebody to do it for me. Because I never experienced graduation because I was expelled. I looked at that woman who got stabbed 3 times in her chest, and she said, she came to me, she said, dang, I need this graduation so my babies can see that I'm doing something with myself.
Because sometimes people just have to see. And like you said, even with people not taking pride in, in where they are because they're renting, they're not owning. But just think, but the kid don't know that you're renting. So if they walk out the house, and even though you renting it, but the yard is manicured, ain't no trash in here and there, they still take pride in it because that's where they grew up in. So if they're, again, a lot of it is just showing. Mm-hmm. So I get that point too. I'm about to wrap up, but I had to ask you this real quick too, because we're talking about planting seeds. We're talking about the future.
Okay.
Right now, redistricting.
Yes.
These lines.
Important.
How they've been drawn have basically, they've allowed one party to just basically dominate the state. And we're talking about this state, Louisiana.
Correct.
We got one district.
Correct.
But, we're a larger percentage of what that district actually represents.
Correct.
You're on the ground when it comes to politics.
Correct.
What is the plan for redistricting in this state? How can we get these lines redrawn? What's the holdup?
Well, here's the issue. First of all, a lot of people are proud of what Stacey Abrams was able to do in Georgia. Mm-hmm. Okay, first Black African American U.S. Senator. Well, here's the issue. What can we do is that we have to get involved more in our local elections. We have to understand that these same people that we've forsaken these elections to are making a decision when these census come every 10 years, okay? We had a congressional seat. Cleo Fields was the last congressional seat. Louisiana has had as many as 11 electoral votes. Right now, we only have 8. And we lose these votes based on the population. People are moving out of Louisiana at a high proportional rate, relocating to Austin, Texas, Dallas, because there's no job opportunity. And so we're losing these population. And that's why no politician who running for a national office is going to come set foot in Louisiana. For what? For 8 electoral votes? Now we change the format to population, then maybe so. But right now, there's nothing to gain here.
Yeah.
And so how do we change that mindset? Is that we have to get people educated that although you voted for the president, we need to be voting for the mayor and the city council and the state representative, state senator. Because, and your school board member, and all these other elections that you take a day off on, these are important. So when it's an issue that come about and you ain't getting what you want, you can't just blame people that ain't getting nothing done because you were a part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so right now, it's going to be a fight. Because nobody going to give them no control, no power. Who going to redraw lines and give it to me? Or give it to you? Nobody. So what we have to do is we got to, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go into litigation. We're going to have to go get us a statistician, and so that the numbers, all that litigation stuff, we're going to have to go do. I'm prepared for it. I'll be graduate law school. I'm ready. But that's what it takes. Yeah. You need someone to do this. You know what I mean? I'll be the first one to sue because you're not fit to come and take over full representation, and you don't have the numbers that suggest that it's supposed to mirror the population that you serve in.
Taxation without
representation. And it happens everywhere. Think about it. East Baton Parish school system, majority black. But however, I want people to understand it's not about how many students East Baton Parish school system. It's how many people that makes up the parish.
Yep, the whole parish.
The voter electorate. And so the voting base. And so, but let's just see. The East Baton Parish is ran majority Republicans. Metro Council is ran by majority Republicans. Mm-hmm. The legislature is ran by majority Republicans. And yet Louisiana is ranked number 50. And Mr. Chambers said that the Democrats or it's them two fault.
Yeah.
How when we don't have?
How?
So what I'm saying is, and I use his example. I use his name because he said it. But you have to give the information, all of it. You can't give part of it. Although ain't nothing get done, I know they ain't. But let's look at their voting record. Let's look and see. That's to be honest. Let's look at their voting record. Let's see what they advocated for.
Right.
Let's see what they support. Now you got them. But to simply say we 50 because they've had an opportunity, then what happened when you get in there and then we still 50? Can we say the same thing to you?
Exactly.
Nah, you don't want to play that game. Because people going to hold you to it now. You be careful what you say to people because people going to pay them tapes back and say, hold on now.
This is true.
You said we were 50.
This is true.
Now you the man. We still 50.
I think what you're doing with the ground game is going to be a huge component for how we move in the future. So again, I have to publicly say it again. I applaud you. I applaud your efforts. And I applaud you for having, that track record of tangible wins. And I want to say, keep doing your thing, man. It was really good finally meeting you in person.
Appreciate it.
We definitely got to do this again.
Yes.
And I look forward to, in the future, if I can do anything to help the cause. Because, I think if we all move in the right direction, in the same direction, then we can win.
That's right.
But we don't win if we all wearing the same jersey, but we ain't running the same play.
That's right.
So, again, I applaud you. Thank you for pulling up. Again, we definitely got to have to do a whole part 2 of this.
Yeah, man. Look,
we got to do a part 2 of this.
Look,
man.
I'm gonna give it to you, man. And look, I thank you so much for letting for inviting me. And but this is what's needed. This is the education piece,
right?
And that we can give our community, and so the more knowledge that I get, the more I am supposed to come back and give it. You shouldn't be making mistakes and I know it too.
Yeah,
I should be able to tell you what I know, and not have you to come and depend on me when I can empower you to influence the people you can influence. So, it got to be like that.
Man, let's make it happen.
All right, man. Thank you.
Just remember, you're either at the table or you're on the menu. You pick which one. We out.